Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to Shloka Day. Today's Shloka is Shloka number 38 of chapter 18. Vishayendriya Sanyogat
Vishayendriya Sanyoga
Yattadagre Mritopamam
Yattadagre Mritopamam
Pariname Vishamiva
Pariname Vishamiva
Tatsukham Rajasam Smritam
Tatsukham Rajasam Smritam
Vishayendriya Sanyogat
Vishayendriya Sanyoga
Yattadagre Mritopamam
Yattadagre Mritopamam
Pariname Vishamiva
Pariname Vishamiva
Tatsukham Rajasam Smritam
Tatsukham Rajasam Smritam
Vishayendriya Sanyogat
Vishayendriya Sanyoga
Yattadagre Mritopamam
Yattadagre Mritopamam
Pariname Vishamiva
Pariname Vishamiva
Tatsukham Rajasam Smritam.
Tatsukham Rajasam
Word
Smritam.
for word meaning, translation, and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Vishaya,
Vishaya
of the objects of the senses.
of the objects of the senses.
Indriya,
Indriya
and the senses.
and the senses.
Sanyogat,
Sanyoga
from the combination.
from the combination.
Yat,
Yat
which.
which.
Tat,
Tat
that.
that.
Agre,
Agre
in the beginning.
in the beginning.
Amrita upamam,
Amrita upamam
just like nectar.
just like nectar.
Pariname,
Pariname
at the end.
at the end.
Visham eva,
Vishamiva
like poison.
like poison.
Tat,
Tat
that.
that.
Sukham,
Sukham
happiness.
happiness.
Rajasam, in
Rajasam
the mode of passion.
in the mode of passion.
Smritam
Smritam
is considered.
is considered.
Translation. That happiness
That happiness
which is derived
which is derived
from contact of the senses
from contact of the senses
with their objects
with their objects
and which appears like nectar at first,
and which appears like nectar at first,
but poison at the end,
but poison at the end,
is said to be of the nature of passion.
is said to be of the nature of passion.
Prabhupada writes, a young man and a young woman meet, and the senses drive the young man to see her, to touch her, and to have sexual intercourse. In the beginning, this may be very pleasing to the senses, but at the end or after some time, it becomes just like poison. They are separated, or there is divorce, there is lamentation, there is sorrow, etc. Such happiness is always in the mode of passion. Happiness derived from a combination of the senses and the sense objects is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means. Rajasic happiness is experienced as a thrill that arises from the contact between the senses and their objects. But the joy is as short-lived as the contact itself and leaves in its wake greed, anxiety, guilt, and a thickening of the material illusion. Even in the material realm, for meaningful accomplishment, it is necessary to reject Rajasic happiness. This place, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu writes, most gross sense enjoyments bind us to the bodily conception. We cannot switch on and off bodily conception. Either we are in bodily conception or we are not in bodily conception. Then the trouble in terms of birth, old age, disease, and death, and three types of miseries come up. If this type of pleasure has to be considered, it has to be considered within the pursuit of dharma, and practice of dharma gives us the realization and it enables us slowly to experience higher happiness. And then the appeal of lower pleasure subsides, and eventually one becomes freed from the allurement of those pleasures. So His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu has titled this article or this write-up very nicely. He says, temptation buys us on an installment basis. So little by little, we get tempted, and pretty soon we become very good servants of Maya. When we buy something on an installment basis, we need to pay only small amounts at a time. By thus manageably dividing a large amount, we can afford something that might otherwise be unaffordable. This principle of gradual giving is used against us by temptation, which beguiles us. Beguiles us means fools us into paying an unaffordable price. If temptation came upfront and asked us to give up our principles entirely and indulge in pleasures wantonly, we would refuse. For that would be like asking for a hefty one-time payment. Typically, if you buy things on an installment basis, you pay much more than what you would have paid if you paid cash upfront, right? So similarly, Maya Devi is tempting us little by little, she's tempting us. But the price she's extracting from us is significant. The price is that we have to take birth again and again and again. Instead, temptation lowers our guard with its installment plan. For the greedy, installment plan seems very, very attractive. I can have something that otherwise I could not afford. Therefore, it is, many shops make it very easy for you to buy something very expensive. So hence Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is writing, instead, temptation lowers our guard with its installment plan. It asks us to indulge in a little bit of pleasure, which seems harmless. And then it induces us to indulge a bit more and a bit more still, till we become so habituated that we indulge unthinkingly and even compulsively. Because the increment in indulgence is gradual. It doesn't ring any alarm bells within our conscience. We don't seem to be giving up our principles. But still, in the end, we get so enmeshed means trapped, in sensuality, that our morality is left far behind. So this Maya is very powerful. She is very powerful. She can just put you in her grips in so many different ways, and you don't even realize you're being imprisoned. How does temptation pull off the illusion that it isn't asking for a significant price? By its initial appearance. The Bhagavad Gita cautions that sensual pleasure seems like nectar initially, but turns out to be like poison eventually. The minor concessions to our principles that we make to get small indulgences seem harmlessly enjoyable. That enjoyment is like the initial nectar. So there is a great thrill for us if we can purchase something that we cannot afford. But we think we are very smart because we only paid a small amount to get what we wanted initially. So we feel a great deal of this false sense of happiness. But through them, we become attached, eventually even addicted. So once you know you can purchase something on an installment plan, then you'll continue to purchase other things on installment plans. And like this, you will get slowly trapped and sometimes even addicted. That irresistible craving and its unconscionable consequence of indulgence comprise the poison phase. And it lasts much longer than the nectar. So that the nectar is very short-lived, but the poison lasts forever. That is the trap of Maya Devi. She makes everything look very, very attractive on the sensual platform. And we think, oh, that is so good. And before you know it, you are imprisoned. We are imprisoned by the three gunas, right? We are talking about the three gunas here. If we can remember that small indulgences in those pleasures that we know are immoral, and anti-devotional have big consequences, we can refuse to let our consciousness to be brought by temptation's installment plan. So we have to remind ourselves that all of this is just a trap to take you away from Krishna. So Maya Devi is so strong. How do you strengthen yourself? How do you strengthen and get the resolve not to succumb to her temptations? You have to really chant the holy names of the Lord. So for someone who's getting trapped by Maya Devi again and again, what else can you call them but foolish? Yes. So we have all been at some point or the other, and maybe even now, every now and then, we are all foolish. We constantly fall for Maya's very, very attractive propositions for us. Whatever it is, material things, relationships, finances, emotional well-being, everything is a trap. So the only source of happiness is Krishna. So Maya Devi cannot give you any happiness. So hence Krishna is saying, all our senses, whichever relevant objects the senses come in contact with, it seems very thrilling. And that nectar later on turns to become poison. Why is it poison? Why is Krishna calling all of this poison? Because it traps you here in the material world. Hence it is poisonous. But if the same thing we do it for the pleasure of Krishna, then everything becomes sublime.